Communism. The hammer and sickle is the most famous symbol of communism, representing the unity and shared fight of workers and farmers. It first appeared during the Russian Revolution in 1917, when workers and peasants rose up to overthrow the old capitalist system. Later, it became the official emblem of the Soviet Union. The hammer stands for factory workers, while the sickle represents farmers. Together, they show the alliance between these two groups in their fight against exploitation and their push for a classless, equal society. Usually shown on a red background, the color symbolizes revolution, defiance, and the blood of workers who fought for freedom and justice. Over time, the hammer and sickle became more than just a Soviet icon. It turned into a global symbol of communism, adopted by socialist movements and parties all over the world. For its supporters, it represents solidarity, workers' rights, and the dream of a system where wealth is shared instead of hoarded by a few. Capitalism. Capitalism doesn't really have one official symbol, but some common ones that represent it are the dollar sign, coins, and images of banks or stock markets. These symbols show what capitalism is all about, like private property, free markets, competition, and making a profit. The dollar sign is often used as a quick way to represent capitalism because it stands for money, which is the main thing that drives everything in a capitalist economy. In this system, creating wealth and owning stuff is super important, with the dollar symbolizing the profit-driven push for innovation, trade, and investment. Other symbols, like graphs going up, show the idea of economic growth, which is a key part of capitalism, getting wealthier and more productive. Things like factories, skyscrapers, and shopping malls are also connected to capitalism, as they represent industrial progress, big corporations, and consumer culture, all of which are big parts of how capitalism works. Fascism. The symbol most linked to fascism is the fasces, which is a bundle of rods tied together around an axe. This symbol goes way back to ancient Rome, where it was used by Roman officials to show their power and authority. The fasces represent strength in unity. Individually, the rods are weak, but when they're bound together, they create a strong, unbreakable force. The axe in the middle symbolizes the power to punish and keep order. When fascism came about in the early 1900s, especially in Italy with Benito Mussolini, the fasces became a symbol of the state's power, authority, and the idea of the nation coming together as one. It was all about promoting strong, centralized control and a society where the state comes first and individual freedoms take a back seat. In the fascist context, the fasces stood for rejecting democracy and liberal ideas, focusing instead on social order and the power of the state. Anarchism. The symbol most tied to anarchism is the circle A, which is just a capital A for anarchy inside a circle. This symbol sums up the main ideas of anarchism, which is all about creating a society without hierarchies, authorities, or centralized power. The A stands for anarchy, and the circle represents order. Together, they show the belief that a self-managed society can work, where people govern themselves without needing a state, government, or forceful systems. The Circle A became widely recognized in the 20th century, especially during the rise of anarchist movements like labor struggles, anti-authoritarian protests, and revolutionary actions. Anarchists believe real order can happen without rulers, through voluntary cooperation and collective decision-making, based on mutual aid and direct democracy. The black flag shows the anarchist goal of creating a society free from government control, capitalism, and organized religion. Democracy. Democracy doesn't have just one official symbol, but several images are often linked to it. One of the most common is the ballot box, symbolizing elections, the heart of democracy. Another well-known symbol is the scales of justice, representing fairness, equal rights, and the rule of law. In a true democracy, laws apply to everyone, and justice is meant to be impartial, protecting people from corruption and tyranny. The Greek temple or pillars, inspired by ancient Athens, also symbolize democracy. They stand for strong institutions like governments, courts, and a free press, which help keep democracy running. Zionism. The most well-known symbol of Zionism is the Star of David, a six-pointed star that has been linked to Jewish identity for centuries. Zionism, which started in the late 1800s, is a movement focused on creating and supporting a Jewish homeland, something that eventually led to the founding of Israel in 1948. The Star of David became the main emblem of Zionism and is now featured on Israel's flag. The blue and white colors of the flag come from the Talit and represent Jewish identity. While the Star of David wasn't originally a religious symbol, it became widely recognized as one in the Middle Ages. Feminism. The most recognizable symbol of feminism is the Venus symbol with a raised fist inside it. The Venus symbol represents femininity, while the fist stands for strength and activism. Other symbols include the color purple, linked to the women's suffrage movement, and 3 interlocking fists, showing unity among women from different backgrounds. Nazism. The most famous symbol of Nazism is the swastika, which the Nazi Party adopted in the 1920s. The design, a black swastika tilted at a 45-degree angle inside a white circle on a red background, became the official emblem of Nazi Germany. The swastika itself has been around for thousands of years and was originally a positive symbol in many cultures, including Hinduism, Buddhism, and Norse traditions, where it stood for good luck, prosperity, and the cycles of life. But when the Nazis took it, they twisted its meaning, turning it into a symbol of Aryan supremacy, nationalism, and militarism. The red background of the Nazi flag was meant to appeal to the working class. The white circle stood for nationalism, and the swastika itself represented the Nazi vision of a racially pure and unified Germany. The party wanted to bring Germany back to power by rejecting democracy, building up the military, and expanding its territory. Propaganda was key to gaining support, portraying the Nazis as Germany's saviors. They introduced policies to boost the economy, create jobs, and secretly rebuild the military, even though it violated the Versailles Treaty. Nazism's drive for expansion led to World War II in 1939. Starting with Germany's invasion of Poland, the Nazis aimed to dominate Europe through military conquests. While they made big gains at first, their aggressive plans and poor management eventually caused Germany's defeat in 1945, leaving the country in ruins and divided. Neo-Nazism. Since the swastika is banned in many countries, neo-Nazi groups have come up with alternative symbols to represent their ideology. One of the most common is the Black Sun, a design that comes from Nazi Germany and is linked to Aryan supremacy and occult beliefs. It's made up of 12 sig runes arranged in a circle. Another is the Wolfsangel, a rune-like emblem that was originally used by some Nazi military units and later adopted by neo-Nazis. It was originally used in medieval Germany as a coat of arms symbol and a way to trap wolves. Also, 88 stands for Heil Hitler, since H is the 8th letter of the alphabet, and 14 refers to the 14 words, a well-known white supremacist slogan. Neo-Nazis push for a centralized, authoritarian government and claim to fight for their cultural identity while opposing things like liberal democracy, globalization, and multiculturalism. They often use Nazi symbols and slogans to promote their beliefs and rally like-minded people. Some see themselves as defenders of their heritage, framing their ideology as a reaction to modern social and economic changes. Different neo-Nazi groups have different goals. Some try to get into politics to gain legitimacy, while others stay on the fringes, focusing on protests or propaganda. These groups are usually part of broader far-right or ultra-nationalist movements,